سلام كبرات خاتمتي مدب ميديا وقعد حنا مدبنا مصحهم كم تريقوا زلهم عالم بناي مرجع دونالد ترامب ويدما كامالا هاريس ياتزارب زلا نحنا ونكم خاتاتلتي مدن لومعتي بزعبا زي زكاة زلو بغطتا زمحالف زلو حبيبنا كنكاتلنا أنا أكسم ميلو لكم رئيسوتاتيو بزعبا زي مرجع نمنيكم تريلي أتي بوليسي ناي ترامب وكمون بوليسي ناي كامالا هاريس ببحث انتوسينا أنا يوز مرات بيكونوا تبوي لمجموعة جزء والستيتي ديا بريزيدنت أمريكا كون وي دونالد ترامب إن حاجة تمريز وزن برا كتشحن عشان كسب تشحن عسران ديو كملس أزيو وساني هون مرجعي كم بعل إيلون ماسك وتوم دونالد ترامب ترى زي تمريزو أمريكا أنا جرشة ناي ديمقراطية تريلي تحرزي كندي ناي ديمقراطية كيلو إذا كالن زولا استيكون سلازي كبرات خاتلتي رأيتكم أبكم تصحفهم أنكم بإيه نمانيكم كعوة ديكم تولهم دونالد ترامب كامالا هاريس دونالد ترامب تقولوا حاجة تصحفوا كامالا هاريس تقولوا كل غلطة تصحفوا أرأي election night لايك نكاتلينا
2020 56%. This is where Harris is tonight 53%. There's still about 20% of the vote just over Macomb County. Now, this is a little more middle class, a little more working class. It is a suburb of Detroit as well. Republicans do very well here. Trump was at 53%. There's only about a third of the vote in. He's at 57, so he's overperforming there. Some of the other areas we want to watch: Grand Rapids, Kent County. This is the last place where Trump.
دونالد ترامب محل زلو عادتاتن كامالا هاريس محل زلو عادتاتن بمحل يولو التسلسل جوزلهم كندي تقبل تقبل أحد تماما ميشيغان بحال كتما كامالا هاريس على نتبي رقبال لا سميوي مالتنا كامالا هاريسيو ناي ديمقراط مالتيو كأنا ريبابليكاني
Tonight, Harris is underperforming right now with almost three-quarters.
أنا حجي جو بايدن مرجع كمرت كل أوان بغلطشان أسران مالتيو بسوسانشن نتبي تعاوني رأزا ميشيغان بهالعدي لو مجن كامالا هاريس بسوسانشن بزححة نتبي أتمرزلا بحثر يوردو يقولوا جو بايدن كمين يرو كامالا هاريس كنت تدبر على تعال رزاق ترلا
Though, look, we still need half the vote to come in. A lot of that's going to be Detroit, as we know. I'm going to look at Saginaw. This is a battleground county. This is where she toured that semiconductor plant. We don't see much there. There's only 1% of the vote in. I don't want to draw anything from that. She appeared here with Michelle Obama. It was the Harrison. Michelle Obama appeared with 13% of the vote in, and she's slightly underperforming. Guys, a lot of the vote is still out in Michigan, but the trend lines we've been seeing in the other states, we're sort of seeing in Michigan as well. But again, I don't want to draw too much from that because there's a lot of that vote that's out.
So interesting to see you do those university towns because
it's shocking.
Well, yeah. Because there was a lot of turnout.
Yeah,
Kind of giddy about that, but I think this might be a function of what we've been seeing, which is young men turning out what you normally would expect from a university town.
And something we haven't mentioned just yet, because so much of the vote is out in Wayne County. You have Detroit and you have Dearborn that makes up Wayne County, that Arab American Muslim vote. We're talking about more than 200,000 voters there. Again, it's probably not going to be monolithic, but
كم زري وزلو أبزي ساعات زي ناي دونالد ترامب زحاشة نتبي حزلو وكعوة أخيلي زبل رديتي زلني كم زري وزلو خمالتي يلا تابع زي تشق قبل اللي خدمتي تبع له ديالا بس حد كادلو أبزي تروزو لكم كا دونالد ترامب كمتيو أبتي أخيبا سعد زارب يصبي أمزلو بعدين election night زخونة تأكيبهم موسيقى اليوم الناس زناقوا الناس حقوا تريواميهم بتعامي serious زخونة good daisy أبتي comment انتهي باللو ترامب يندو
decision yet a lot of things that they're looking at that make them excited. There's certain counties like
make America great hat تاقوا بيعتوا لهم America great كبران دولو
that's an area that actually is now
they give to Trump a comment عن حريكم they give the Kamala Harris got to the hotel
is going for the former president probably says something about the young black vote and the young vote in general. You probably heard some cheering. That's because they have us up on the screen behind. They heard us on because the people here, guys, they're waiting for you to make the decision because, like I said, at 10:30 they called it for Trump, but obviously still waiting on Fox News to make that official decision. Correct, Martha?
Yeah, Madison, that area is really come around in recent years because the Harris campaign thought that they had a real shot in Georgia. We haven't called it yet. There's a reason for that. They're just waiting for other vote to come in. But there's an excitement there that they're finally going to get over the top.
Oh, absolutely. There is an excitement here. And we've been talking to folks on the ground. The fact that Georgia will most likely flip for former President Trump again. They've said things like, enjoy this moment. We worked hard for this. Enjoy the fact that we're bringing safety back to America. They're very happy that their candidate is probably going to take home the win here. And, I've been talking to voters on the ground for days now, and I got a lot of people that said they waited. And very dedicated voting base here. And in this room, we're at the GOP Watch Party.
Thank you so much. By the way, there hasn't been a lot of count in Georgia in the last 45 minutes or so. So we'll see where that stands.
We'll get a look at that and see where that's going. But what about Tennessee, which we called a really long time ago? I know
Fox Live decade lazy.
In Tennessee, but Pete Hegseth can answer that question for us because he is in.
Steve Patterson is there in Washoe County. Tell us what you're seeing there.
Washoe County.
Democracy in action, Savannah. We're in the tabulation center. The machines are humming. The ballots are coming in from polling places all across the county. Although it is now abundantly clear that the workers you see over my shoulder are going to be here for a while. That is because
Trump
to say that people are still voting. It is, 2.5 hours past when polls were supposed to close. People that are still in line can still vote. Tribal community that has about 50 people still in line. It is going to take a while for those votes to get counted. In-person votes that come in today have to wait to be counted until the very last person in Nevada takes their turn to vote. So this is going to take some time. We're also understand there was a University of Nevada, Reno, that took a while. There were about 50 people that still had to vote after polls closed there. That is because we're hearing registrations college campuses. Signed up to vote on the same day, clogged the system a little bit. None of this is to say that this is any indication that there's anything wrong, any indication of fraud. It just means that the system is taking a while, and as we often report in the Silver State, it may take a minute before we get totals here. Back to you.
All right, Steve, thanks very much. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett joins us now.
Democrat policy يفوتوا فلايت أب سيدتني هاد جبروها كمال هاري سيدتني هاد تقبل سيدتني أدل تهبع أبز حجر وأنا ورقته يجي كم كون نتبت عدلنا.
Based on the pro-life issue.
Well, and RFK Jr. was cutting ads for the Catholic vote in particular in battleground states.
I'm asking.
As far as sorry, I was just going to say.
Live comment, I will.
Margins, at least at this moment, in Wisconsin and Michigan. I think somewhere in Florida, RFK Jr. may be breathing a sigh of relief because he could have been a spoiler in those, but at this point, like the margin is big enough.
I do think we have to bring up the youth vote again. I mean, what a difference we are seeing from 4 years ago. Those voters under the age of 30 going for Harris over Trump by 8 points. 4 years ago, they favored Biden by 25 points. I mean, this is a huge
Joe Biden كمرأس كله كمين يروح يجي خاقمي على تزيب هاك وتايت صبر ريتوس كان سمعنا زي مهور بصحات مهورات متسميم دزارة بدلو
in addition to that, from what I could gather, the economic message really resonated. You have to remember
this is a Colombia من تعوت بالله كمال هارس تعوت يا بالله كم عدينا بعدي كم حد ستيتنا بحد ستيت من يدعوت زبل النار أيو جام يهو كسب نبي حق تعوتها اليوم رزالة الهبو مالتي
states where the Latino community is much more organized and has been by Democrats for longer than in places like Pennsylvania.
كلاتكم ما بكومنت زلكم يري الله سلام سلام ترعت سمعن لكم صبق وي تريوا لكم نصور زخونه اب كومنت صحفوا لي حد لكم صحفوا كلاتكم سلام تاي يبصحكم
vote margin, but again, Donald Trump, the projected winner. This is a big call.
Georgia, Donald Trump come to our
some time for
Kamala Harris led by someone that be.
Here's what the road to 270 looks like.
Is it totally
drawing closer now to that magic number? He's at 246, Harris at 189.
Well, this means
أجنتك أي Trump is also low عدتها في ستيتي. كلتن سبعة زبط حقا كل يوم تقدمه. That's it. President رقيبنا مالتي. شالهم كسفنا النعيم مالتي. بس كامالا هاريس إذا أنا جو بايدن بوليس الساعة قصة. I don't know. Trump تدعوت الناس لهم كسفنا النعم. مسكوتين بس رسمي تقالي سكاي كونني أيوجحني.
And welcome back. That news is sinking in that Georgia will go into the Donald Trump column here tonight.
Okay, Georgia got Donald Trump تعودوا مالتي.
And putting Donald Trump even closer to that magic 270.
I was just looking over at Tom, who's doing the back of the envelope math here. So
I'm gaming
show
up
us
the
our
scenario
math
here. I just want to make this very simple for us here and also our viewers at home. So we projected Georgia and North Carolina for former President Trump to go back to the White House. Look at his number right here, 252. If he wins Pennsylvania, he's going back to the White House, 271. It's coming down to Pennsylvania right now for Republicans. What the math changes now.
Pennsylvania تبال عادي أتا وصاني حاجة. عندنا أتا وصاني عادي. Pennsylvania تعودوا خلاص. كتا ناب White House كاتوي.
She's still going to have to pick off 2 states in the blue wall. She no longer has that path. Listen, if she wins the entire blue wall, yes, she'll go back to the White House. That is still an option for her. Listen, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She has.
Then so عند العادة ترى كمالا هاريس تعودن كيلا تعودت كنات وتيا.
Things have just gotten much easier for former President Trump. We're going to be watching Pennsylvania more than ever before right now because those 19.
كل لعلي Pennsylvania يزورزلو Pennsylvania أتا وصاني تهاجر. هذا Pennsylvania عوض زغل كاب دونالد ترامب وكمال هاريس حريم ترى عوض كيلو ذا كتمازي عن روسيروما. That's it. President tonight أمريكا ترغيبه مالتي.
Honestly, it feels like 2016. And just the past.
تذكري حد سالو كلشان عشر شان عام تمرد كويني سمعني كانت مجمرتا دونالد ترامب عوض كل أوان.
And so it's possible that you have significant election day voting that could change this, but
guys
just in county after county.
مريشكم تفضلوا راسكي بكومنت صحفوا لي فوت كيركم تفضلوا حد صحفوا مريش أتصادقكم تفضلوا أبكار أنت اللهم قانا اكتشحن أحشنيرو تشحن إسرائيل نيرو مثلاً ناي جاسون ترودو كمرز كلاك زين نخدم كله ناي election time.
What do you think was the
I think come to the local what you Donald Trump.
She was put in a very difficult position
by
President Biden. I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but we have a call in the U.S. Senate that will change the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. NBC News now calling.
Come on, كلك خمتنا president كموت خرجوا نجنا خاف Senate كا مرج أي كايرالو. نتكساس senator Ted Cruz تعويت له نجنا خاف أبناء كال استيتات كا.
It went down to the wire, but in the end, the Nebraska Senate goes back to the Republicans, and that gives a leg up to
Senate majority. زبزح أب Senate كنيسة لحزلو ناي Republican. ناي Donald Trump مالتي زبزح سيد حزو مالو. حنت سيت majority مالتي.
أي انتريهم
دونالد ترامب مالتي سميع انتريهم كامالا هاريس مالتي كم تقول قاعد أنت يقولون يرى مسلكم من حكيكم ناي مسافني ناي بريزيدنت مسافني سنبرت كم يعني خمسة بيجاي تخدمني الكا ناي بجمرتا كيسابي سيجي زبحالي كيسابي سيجي كل أوان سميع ويخدون نيرو تحر بوبي واين مزي بوبي واين كاك أي حتى خدام تزي أبزي مرجع إذا عند كراون تسأل كالي بس كحيت واتس منات بتعم حاجة جناي نايمن دقة في خيلو من دعوة عم دبولها صوت تقول لكم أب أمريكان دحاني أب كندا دحاني يدل لك تخدم نورمالي anyway now president مرجع أنا نملس
I think of all the outcomes that happened here tonight, this is probably the least surprising. Republicans felt very
على مولو تجد نسوا بزعبة حدا مرجع خزارب كم زي عدين نقطكم
There were 10 competitive Senate races across the country. 8 of them were held by incumbent Democrats. And the places where they were battling out these races were in places where...
يا واد انت لايف اتيكم لهم لايك كورو تاب اي ترسعوا مناتو ناب كلوت متان كمت حبيبنا زي مرجع خلينا نكتاتلو بتحتنا حتىكم له تاب كورو لايك كورو اب كومنت خاصحفوا
much talking to us about the idea of 50+1. They just wanted 51 seats to make sure that they would have the Senate Majority Leader, that they could control the legislation that came on.
أجيتنا السنة بغم يحجزوا مسلكم زبز حس أبسيري أبسنة ترغيبهم زغون بوليسي وحقي كوتو خلوا أتي حقي نخلف زلع على تقول اللو مانعته زبز حس سيت لزلهم ماجورتي تراغين وماجورتي زبز زمرت.
In places like Pennsylvania, these were areas where Democrats were hopeful because they had strong incumbents there, or they had strong challengers, people running in open seats like in Michigan, who they thought they'd be able to run ahead of Kamala Harris. The race was close at the presidential level. Donald Trump's margins seem to be bringing those Republicans.
In a matter of moments, you
إذا عجب بنسلفانيا توصاني تاجر أنا لكم على دونالد ترامب كمرتي لكم على دونالد ترامب كمرتي
as soon as it happens here on live now from Fox. But we're also seeing movement right now in West Palm Beach, Florida, at the watch party for former President Donald Trump. We see someone on the stage. They're setting up the microphone, getting everything. The stage is set.
سلام سلام ناروس سلام نهم تصفي كلكم أبزل لكم سلام سلام نعفهم.
Well past midnight now, 40 minutes past the midnight here on live now from Fox for this. All right, let's slide away. Continue here. Let me put up this before we go to break. Just a new post from Jackie Heinrich. New reporting here saying 2 sources tell Jackie Heinrich close to the campaign say Harris will not address the crowd at Howard tonight. Cedric Richmond will come out and give remarks. Harris is expected.
انتظر لو معلتي كامل هارس كتزارب تتصبي ماني رب من لومي متي اي كتزاربنيا قال اي كتوهبنيا ناتا مكتل متي ግን ኣብ ክንዳ ዝኾነ ቃል ክህብ ኢሎም ምሸት ማለትዩ
the enthusiasm going off as is past midnight there. So plenty of people still waiting here on this election night. Let's line away for a quick 2-minute break. We'll get out to
ገለገለ ሕጂ ስቴታት ዘይ election ባለት አውዲቆም ግን ሪዛልት ይወጽሎም አሉ ሕጂ ክትጽበለካ መብዛሕት ሰብ ሕጂ ሪዛልት ጽበዘሎ መኒ ፕሬዚደንት ኮይኑ ወጽ
For Republicans, as Ryan mentioned and as we've talked about tonight, the expectation was that this was likely because there's a third of the Senate that is up every 2 years, 34 seats this time, and it was favorable territory for Republicans. But for the partnership between a White House and at least one chamber of the Senate, of the Congress, it makes such a difference. Now, Donald Trump has not always courted those Republicans. He has such a grasp over his
majority seats of Senate na Donald Trump malatu
getting things done, but he has infused his brand, his personality into this Republican caucus, and that will mean sort of a Trump-style reflection in the Senate, perhaps more than we saw in his first term, because you won't have Mitch McConnell in a leadership position.
All right, we want to go to Harris headquarters, Cedric Richmond, who is, of course, the head of the DNC, about to address the crowd there. Let's listen in.
Okay, is he Nata Hoinu, Magic Zarabi?
Good evening, Howard.
Kamala Harris at the Zarab to Baywanero. Good.
I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family, thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here.
Trump
Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet.
ገና ዘይተጸዋዕ ሃገራት ስቴታት ኣለዋ ብዛዕታት
that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken.
ኩሉ ድምጺ ክስማዕ ንጽበለና ኩሉ ሰብ ቮት ክገብር ንጽበለና
But you will hear from her.
ካማላ ሃሪስ ሎ ምሸት መጽያ ክትዛረብና እንተኾነ ግን ጽባሕ መጽያ ክትዛረባ
not only to address her supporters but to address the nation.
ጽባሕ መጽያ ክትዛረባ ዳዕና ነመስግነኩም ሎ መምጻእኩም
and go HU and go Harris.
ዳዕና ነመስግነኩም ነዚ ምጻእኩም ነመስግነኩም ሎሚ ግን ካማላ ሃሪስ መጽያ ክትዛረብና እዝናታ ካምፔይን ማናጀር ማለት እዩ
tonight, but we will hear from her tomorrow. We've got Julian Castro here. What do you make of that? What are your tea leaves showing you?
ናይ ካማላ ሃሪስ ገዞም ቆሪዮም ናይ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ኢና ክንካተል ማለት እዩ ካማላ ሃሪስ ተፈዲሶም ኣለዉ ሰዓቶም ኣኺሉ ያ ልሕፍቀት ዝኾነ ኩሎም ገዞም ከለዉ እዚኦም እውን ክሃተሉ ኣለዉ
Cedric Richmond, the campaign co-chair.
كلهم يسودوا مالو نجزهم that's it تبعهم معلت مالتي.
Came out, and again, I think the themes. One of the questions that we were looking at in 2016 was the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't visit Michigan, for example. This was very different. Vice President Kamala Harris went everywhere.
She showed up in Wisconsin.
Of the battleground states, but again, her messaging, and we all
know
that
Trump
the messaging really focused on the issue of democracy when polls showed issues like the economy, like reproductive rights, were really the top issues for voters. So that's undoubtedly
Kamala Harris to look
threat to democracy.
Donald Trump to look
the beholder, and it means different things. I mean, Mark Lauder's here, a veteran of Republican campaigns and the Trump campaign in 2020. I mean, a threat to democracy, I think, is, you know, the pollsters, we're going to all have to come and workshop a different way of putting it, because for some, for Democrats, it certainly means January 6th and some of those, you know, extra legal. To hold on to power in 2020.
Donald Trump እንታይ ገይሩ መስለኩም ዓም ክብለኩም ዝሓለፈ ምርጫ ማለት እዩ ምስ ከም ዘይተመርጸ ምስ ተፈልጠ እዚ ብጣዕሚ ገበንዩ ዓሚጽኩም ኢኹም ኢሎም ዓመጽኩም ጌርኩም እምበር ኣነ ክምረጽ ዝግባእን ገለን ስበለ ኣብ ጃንዋሪ 6 ነቶም ናቶ ደገፍቲ ኣብ ትዊተር peaceful protest ግበሩ ኢሎም ሰላም ጌርኩም ግን protest ግበሩ በቃ ተቃውሙ ኢሎም ወጪኩም ሲ ተቃውሞኩም ኣስምዑ እዚኦም ናብ ካፒታል ቢልዲንግ ኣትዮም ስቶርም ገይሮም ናብ ካፒታል ቢልዲንግ ኣትዮም ኣነ ደበል ዕግርግር ገይሮም ንዶናልድ ትራምፕ ሽዑ ስኻኻ ኣናዒብካዮም ስኻኻ ነዚ ነገር እዚ ኣጓሂርካዮ ስኻኻ ፀገም ነርካዮም ብዙሕ ሽግር ኣምፂኦምሉ ነይሮም ብዙሕ ሰፈር ይሄድ ኣሎ እንታይ ከጋጥም እንተራ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ይተዓወት ንዓና ቅጥዕመና ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ይተዓወት
obviously part of the Trump campaign. It reminds me of 2016 in so many ways because of the theory. It's not you have to win wow counties or you have to do I'll use the McDonald's reference because it's an iconic photo. He supersized 2016 and said, I'm going to grow my rural numbers and then I'm going to take them up another level even more.
Well, as we go to a commercial break, there's the side-by-side picture. If you were just
wow.
This, I think the pictures speak loudly. On the left, the Harris campaign headquarters for the night as people are packing up and leaving.
ናይ Harris campaign ነበሩ ኩሎም ገዛ ኸይዶም ተሪፍረሎ ናይ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ እዮም እዚኦም
will stay in the blue column. It's a changing area, you know, this west coast of Michigan. But what I'm seeing right now, even though you have just about 60% of the vote in, I'm seeing a lot of red right up and down Lake Michigan. And
My God.
for a while, you know, that
My
change
God.
it seemed to be shifting a little bit. There's a county right here called Muskegon, beautiful part of the world. And that had seemed to be drifting in the Democratic column as well. But Trump's got a firm grip on it now, 16 points. And I'll just go west of Muskegon, or sorry, south of Muskegon, west of Grand Rapids, is Ottawa County there. Like for years, this was like a Republican bastion. Trump kept it that way in 2020, winning by 21.5 points. In 2016, in Ottawa specifically, you ran away with it at 30 points. And so it will stay that way tonight. And let me just come out to real-time data here and let you know where we are statewide.
State will matter. Just the fact that we only have 7 battleground states. It's the first time you go back to 1980 when there were only 10 battleground states. They have such few battleground states, but I just want to say something interesting. The reason they're talking about Maine and Nebraska is because they won their electoral votes, unlike the other 48 states. So whoever wins their state, they award 2 electoral votes. The person who wins their state, and then the rest of the electoral votes are spread out to congressional districts. So the one in Nebraska, for the blue dot district, that's right around Omaha, and that's the college, kind of a college town. So the only part of Nebraska that is potentially blue. So that's very contested. And the reason Maine is contested, Maine, right around Portland, that area is very liberal. But if you go to the second congressional district, which starts right around Lewiston and Auburn at the bottom, and goes all the way up to Caribou, very rural district, that tends to be a little bit more red. So that's why those can matter. And there's a theoretically a possibility that if one candidate musters just 269 electoral votes, that one electoral vote could put that person over the top. That's why Tim Walz, for example, actually spent 2 days campaigning.
Maybe Mr. Rosemiat Quantum, maybe.
In the favor of the Democrats.
All right, Rich, and I do want to ask you, because we are expected to hear from the former President Donald Trump here coming up in just a little bit.
Donald Trump again,
as well as Trump expected to speak shortly at the campaign watch party in Palm Beach as his YMCA walkout song comes on and Secret Service clears the lobby.
بحثيرو ترامب وجه خزارة مهانو أب بالم بيتش مالتيو المتسوق على كسمعيو كاميرا لنا دونالد ترامب كعوتي زمسل زلو كبرات حواتي دونالد ترامب كعوتي مسلني سلام كسفنا النايو بوتين أكتو كسان زا أكتو كسان كم غين تسوى على يوتيوب عصونا
That is very possible. Back in 2020, he essentially came out and said that he was at the White House at the time, that he believed he was going to win. But there is a very formidable possibility that he could say something like that. My guess is that he will say that we have to wait till the results. I think that because so far they seem to be in his favor, it's in his best interest to try to be cautious and just say something to the effect of "Thank you everybody for coming," and then just kind of walk away and then hope that tomorrow he will receive a concession from Vice President Harris. But right now we really don't know. Once again, only one battleground state poll has come in, and there still is a possibility for Vice President Harris. I think that's why she didn't want to come out. She was trying to strategize what's going to happen tomorrow.
نتسمع حمد دالو زلو وتيم كزارو يلو لين قديمهم إذن تايلوم زغونه consequence في ساعبين كيما تصب نتسمع حمد صبي زلو كلهم ناي كامالا هاريس campaigns never easy أبتي كيلو جزاهم تبع هلا موريدي ودي كنا كيلو جزاهم يلومهم ناي دونالد ترامب يجي يتصبي له وتيم كزارو
Yes, that's how it's supposed to work. One candidate makes a phone call, says that they concede, and then the candidate goes out and gives a speech. And usually when he gives a speech, he said the candidate usually is very nice and says, "I appreciate my opponent. I appreciate the campaign that he ran." Something to that effect. That's usually.
أنت دا حالة تعاويته نزي كامبين نابلت نزي برجع ناملت نبل دونالد ترامب تعاويته كامالا هاريس دويلا نعو أوكي نقول حقو سكا كونغراديشن كتبلو وي ناتا دمس هذا سمع ما ست حالات نتنو كتبو مالتي تبوتو هاديرنا إلا سكزارة بالو كتأمن على هذا عينتي.
Because Jimmy Carter, which when he losing in a landslide, he lost 44 states that year. Called up former California Governor Ronald Reagan and conceded early, and typically
not quite there yet in the other states, but this may not be an election where we need to be here till Thursday or Friday.
Right. And so when they say go home, relax,
we'll see if they continue to count. Arizona and particularly stubborn about that. We understand Nevada, they don't allow any counting until the last vote has been cast, which is we think why we're getting basically nothing from Nevada so far. But Arizona, it's coming in sort of droves. It's a close race there. Wisconsin and Michigan. Michigan seems to be counting there like 54, 55%. Wisconsin at 2 a.m. in
ኣብ ሚሽጋን ገና እቲ ምፍቃድ ይቅጽል ኣሎ ኣይተወደ እንዳኣምበር ኣብ ካልኦት ስቴትስ ውን ይቅጽል ኣሎ ተተስምዑና ግን ተዓዊት ኢሎም ምለቀስና ቀሲና ማሓደርና
You know, Sean talked about this earlier, the early vote and what that looked like and what she would have to do day of in Philadelphia and those counties right around there.
Savannah, we did just hear from Cedric Richmond making the announcement to the thousands who had gathered here. Frankly, many of them had already left as we approached 1 o'clock, saying that they would not hear from the Vice President Kamala Harris tonight. Instead, saying that she would speak to her supporters, not just here at Howard University, her alma mater, but to the nation as well, in an address that would take place at some point tomorrow. No specifics on when that would occur. For those who have kept track of the Trump era, you'll remember in 2016, a very similar circumstance there at the Javits Center in New York City at Hillary Clinton headquarters, where one of her top aides, John Podesta, came out and spoke to the crowd, saying she wouldn't be speaking. Ultimately, she conceded the next morning, Wednesday morning. So a lot of votes still out there. No plans for any concessions, certainly at this point. But I can tell you, in conversations we've had with a series of individuals, including a Democrat who was attending a donor event that was taking place at one of the glitzy hotels not far from where we are here in Washington, D.C. They say the atmosphere there was like a funeral. Another
ከተማ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ክዕወት ምዃኑ ይግምግሞ ኣለው ዝለዓነት ይዝሎ
the campaign chair. She had what was in effect a sort of pep talk for the forces, the campaign staff, telling them all to get some sleep and that they would come back and finish this off strong tomorrow. So that's effectively where things are at the end of the evening. On a day when so many those close to Kamala Harris really felt like they had the momentum. They felt like the vibes were on their side. It quickly appeared clear that, despite her effort to say that we're not going back, that they may be returning to the figures that
California
where they're just didn't have enough to defeat Donald Trump. That go around, so many blank stares, glum faces.
California,
Kamala Harris tears, but certainly unable to crack a smile here. They've been handing out American flags early on. As some of the early numbers were out, they were cheering and waving those flags. But as the night progressed, and watched the returns come in, no more waving flags. In fact, they asked for the television to be muted here with the returns, with the exception of Hawaii, Colorado, other places that Harris won. They turned them on and got cheers for that. Instead, they blasted music to try to sort of distract from.
Regardless of party, race, creed, we need to create opportunity for every single person. We need to create an economy that works for everybody. We need to secure our border.
Pennsylvania.
We need to have energy policy that protects the environment but also makes us secure and creates great jobs. The bottom line is we need leadership. We don't have it, and we're going to get it.
حيال دخون مرحنة يدنا له دول دخون مرحنة يدلينا له.
And so, listen, in the coming days, the election results will be finalized. And when they are, we will look forward.
أزي كرامة معلتات ناي مرجع ريزالت ماتيو كرينا.
Today, and we'll say that was the day that we turned the corner. That was
why أبزا كومنتي انتهي الكتير كلها أبي نقلت يوم مرات أكون كنجنة تاسبيتي كالسعرية كاملا هارس تعود لي خيا سكت أمتاني سكر أيني كاملا هارس تعود لي خيالها تي بوليسنا تدخل طريقة حوي أنا عقرف الجهان بودين كي تكسلنا ثاني قلت ما لو مياتي خنا دانا نوي حاجة بركن حساب بقول وبسرح بقى هنا لي سرح كومن
with Dina's parents as well and we
لو أمولدو حتى الله يتعودني أتمثل لها إن حالات يوم نتينا election كمان زغون خقوم كل يوم هنفلت
what you ought to be what you can be what you will be they are your rallying point to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems little cause for faith, and to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. And that makes sense to me because this is a moment where we don't have enough leaders showing courage. This is a moment where Americans are losing faith. This is a moment where America is losing hope. But we can turn that page. We can look forward. We can have an America that works for everybody. It starts now. It starts with this election.
أبيعوي أنا كمان ديم بيبا إذا كومنتي زين ببزر له خاطرتي تكسمبرو بيني زارب الله هيتم. اسكي مو عبرها اللي كمي مالك كاي.
To campaign across Pennsylvania.
ترامب كعوتي انت عم يتمودا حق خلها بتعمي حق خلها هي.
And the people we met along the way have given us faith. They've given us courage to want to represent and serve the great people of our Commonwealth. It'll be the honor of our lifetimes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
أنا عقوب أنا قال كبريس معنا يزبل.
Dave McCormick making these speech to supporters as he leads this Senate race against the incumbent Bob Casey right there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We saw both
Pennsylvania hata وسانيت state كوينا زلا مالتي.
Both the Harris and Trump campaigns in that state yesterday on the final day of campaigning on the eve of the election. So we're still awaiting to hear from the former President Donald Trump there in West Palm Beach, Florida at that convention center. He's expected to...
يانا حاجة دونالد ترامب كمتي دونالد ترامب قالوا كسمعي دونالد ترامب سمعنا يجن كتو داعتها مدام مالتيو مناتو المرجع الريزالت صباح ويتحر صباح يكوت دخل دونالد ترامب قلنا تو دمت خسمعي وقع عبد الحال متأهم قال ملا مسكانا قالت مالتيو
swing vote potentially as the incumbent could be flipped in terms of blue to
red right now. Pennsylvania McCormick and اعتمرته بتعمي دونالد ترامب كعوتي مالتي حيال نتبي خركبي
about Georgia and we are just hearing this call coming in right now at this point talking about Donald Trump winning Georgia here just about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, in Washington, دوتوا مالتيو دونالد ترامب تعويتوا أب جورجيا مالتيو 5% ب 48%. بتعمي قرار بيزكونه percentageيو. بتعمي كلتا مليون حدشميتن 30 شحن 900 حموشن. كامالا هاريس كلتا مليون حموشميتن 900 شحن 300 سوسان مالتيو. دارجاناي كلتا percent difference مالتيو. تعمد قرارابي كم دنبو كولو معلتي نغو ازي ابز مرجازي زبزحه كابولو تاريخ امريكا زبزحه حسب كمرص زموصلو ايو ببزحي مالتي بمليونات زبزحه ايو
making a speech tonight. Let's take you right now back out to this if you missed it because it was very brief. A 90-second remarks from him, the co-chair of this Harris campaign. Let's listen into what he had to say just a little bit ago.
Good evening, Howard. Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of
زي ترسم معنا كامالا هاريس لو ما عندك أكتر سنة لهم قلنا.
16, the Electoral College map. We are waiting on the blue wall, which could be a red wall. You just heard from Darren Shaw. I think that.
أتذكر ستيت ناي كيح يبون الله. كيح عند حتى غير دونالد ترامب مريضهم قالوا مالتيو.
Based on our Fox News voter analysis, which again was 120,000 voters, that a rolling poll, and then the raw vote total that they came in. Alex Hoff is in Pennsylvania. We'll check in on the ground there.
Kamala Harris. Oh yeah. Trump كنت أربعة جشن. Let's be his law. Kamala Harris كنت yeah. Let's see. هلا تزيا result
68 overperforming there. Let's go down to Waukesha. Slightly underperforming, still some of the votes out there. But these two counties just south of Milwaukee, they're still part of the Milwaukee media market.
Still, absolutely Donald Trump
51%. He's overperforming there, but still half the vote is out there. And in Kenosha, 95% in, overperforming there as well. These are counties that were blue under Obama. Trump was able to flip them over and then hold them as well. We can go to the Bow counties now. This is around Green Bay. 56% Trump overperforming there. We'll come down. Sorry, let me go over here to Winnebago. 50 again overperforming, and we go to Outagamie, against slightly overperforming guys. So as we study this map, let me go to some of the Democratic.
أبز كومنت عيت شغال كن تقول لهم واتهم كن يتشغلوا كم زمان عيت شغال كالفوني خمرت.
We're talking about a margin of 20,000 votes. That's what it was in 2016 and 2020. You want to be on top. You want to be overperforming everywhere you look.
أبز كون كتما زل على نتبغت حجي تمراتي. ترى زل على نتبغت كلا أو كناك تعود زل على العدل لك عملتيه.
Biden 4 years ago, 95. And we'll look at Dore. That's when
إذا كأي احترام له statement أبت من دغله. زبز حق أي حال زبز حق أي حتى لخا دونالد ترامب زبز بوطا حيز الله مالتي. أجتهم أغربتي ببحدك حتوتيهم.
Mark Lauder remains with us. He was part of the 2020 campaign for Donald Trump. Great to have you both here. Jim, when you see those trends that Tom has been walking through and there's a consistent of underperformance, what does that tell you about the Harris campaign?
Well, the
Harris campaign تحط بقعة يريد لو بزح تعودنا لان تيتري.
Obsessed with Bucks County in Pennsylvania. Where Bucks County goes, we go, and we spent more time and resources there, and the Harris campaign did too. They had huge operations on.
مليون دولارات ماتيهم أب بنسلفانيا هناك فولتيهم بنسلفانيا حن خاطر وسنتي ستيتس يا زبز إلكترال فوت وين يمرجع قطري سلزوهابا ما زعابين سلزون لك أخم تكساس مالتي. أب ساعات زي 5% ترامب على سخ 40 شو منتج يدلو.
But you know, every 4 years we're having this discussion. Usually it's enough. 6 out of the last 7 elections, Democrats have won Pennsylvania. Tonight, we're not sure there's enough out there.
هذا الشيء تخاطلتي نايز مدبنا وعبرهان متاهم سبسكرايب مقبارة يترسعوا كاب متاهم إذا كان اللي بتعميد حد سني تجا فينا عاي دعمي مسكنكم متهم سنة زناي مريجانة أمريكا هتكاتولو مسنحكم عزيز مسكنكم نايز مدب زيت كاتول تولكم إنجيل تقول تولكم سبسكرايب مقبارة الشانل يكتب بفوات قوليكم بدعمي حد زن عاي. Okay, نكرر بزحات دك إنستين لو محمد فوت كيران ويمريسن قدامي مستي كاملا هاريس بالانستيت مهانة مجمرتا بالانستيتين presidential campaigns قبل no the president كون حيال عدل زنبرة مالتي بر هيلاري كلينتون من تساعدفاني رأي زعبية زبزح قطر حزول الحج ستيلون دونالد ترامب
he can't get over 49%. He's found more voters, and we're seeing it tonight when he's overperforming in some of these ruby red rural districts.
Which, by the way, for the 3rd time,
yeah, swing states. I know.
Never happens. And I really
swing states برحق حقا. أبزي comment تبون زالهم بريتا يبغوا لهم تبع لهم.
White male was the right thing to do. Getting into minority communities was the right thing to do. You know, Democrats need an entire autopsy if it goes the way.
No, live Trump كل تيميتنا 40 الله. ريندر الله خبزي. تيمنا 40 شو عدنا الله. كامل هارس كم تيمنا عشرة. Let me see.
Sticking his finger in the eye of the
establishment
of going where no other candidate could or had gone before.
What is true is Donald Trump has always been underestimated by Democrats.
As I do now to the gaps as one Zawa Trump such a bonus and 9 the Zarabe now to the gaps as a honey. Abzigan.
I think it's those blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. They were all states from 1992 through 2016, went for the Democrat every single year, including John Kerry in 2004 when he lost.
Electoral vote member I think, no. Comment. I think can you remember
It's very hard to see a scenario if he can win. If he can win 2 of those states, I think he's going to be elected as president of the United States. And the polls right now are showing him a couple of points ahead. So it's not impossible for Vice President Harris to win here, but she really needs kind of.
كمان هارس أرجع سبب عدل زلوا هذا ساعات أنا قد عوض انترا خمس زلنا مالتي ما بزحت أنت ستيتس دونالد ترامب إن درع وزمت زلوا مالتي.
The always informative Rich Rubino, one of my favorite people to talk politics with. We appreciate you on this big night.
Thank you. I greatly enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you so much, Rich. We appreciate your time. As always, we'll let you sign off as well as we continue on. But we're going to hear soon enough from the former President Donald Trump coming up here in just a little bit there in West Palm Beach, Florida. Of course, Of course, we're following it very closely here on Live Now from Fox. A live picture there inside of this convention hall as well. So he will be soon to take the stage. Let's slide away for a quick 2-minute break. We'll be back after this.
And in order to release those results, they wait until the very last person in line.
كله تمرجع حساب دفكر في جينا جزية قوس دلوميو اسككم
Folks here at the Sam Brown Watch Party, a lot of optimism in the air.
All right, Jeff Ball in Las Vegas. Jeff, thanks.
So our panel is still with us. We have some
يا
new
ترامب
hosts
تقدر
here
تربع شو عتنا
as
له
well.
حق كلهم
Kevin McCarthy is joining us. Carl Rove is back. Juan Williams is here. Great to have all of you with us. Kevin McCarthy, let me start with you. Give us an update on what your overall take on the night so far, and then maybe drill down on some of what you're seeing in these House situations as well.
The Senate Republicans did an extraordinary job. They surpassed all expectations. President Trump is on his way, and I think President Trump is going to help the Republicans hold the House, but it's going to be very narrow, maybe even narrower than we have.
But you think they could do it?
سلامات نظام حدش تأكلوا لهم ناب channel وقعد حن متاهم حدش انت لهم سبسكرايب مقبلنا زي channel كتقفوات خليهم يغني لي قداي زما comment قداي تحت نزول لهم
She did an extraordinary job. Then you look at Maine, we're ahead there.
كون لكم يستطيع لستات
Incumbents that have fallen in New York. California's just in now, but don't read.
تنسوا عن بتي هاي بتعن. تنسوا عن تبتي لا تودي عندها. ترام تعويت مالتك كوي.
We're there. Arizona, we've got a couple of incumbents in trouble. Bacon's coming back in Omaha, maybe there. If we hold the House, if this is a trifecta, the credit goes to President Trump, but it also fundamentally means something different. You can do reconciliation when it comes to tax reform. So you don't need 60 votes in the Senate. Having the Senate as large as he is, he's going to get the cabinet that he wants.
كبرات خاتل استوى لهم اللايف دكادلو ناي مرج أنا دونالد ترامب مس كامالا هاريسيو.
To not play games and focus on the issues, they can grow it the next time. Otherwise, it's going to be very competitive in 2 years.
But Juan Williams, if it's as big as we think it could be, we obviously haven't made these calls yet, but it's trending that way, and the pathway for her to win is getting narrower and narrower. Isn't it not a mandate? And Hakeem Jeffries and the thought of impeaching with what we're seeing tonight seems like wouldn't be the right move.
Well, I think the Democrats are, well, dispirited at this moment, and I think that the likelihood, as we pointed out, is that Trump will be the president. And I think that, for me, talking to people like Darren and political professionals around, no one anticipated the size, only a right in terms of the violence, but a direct action intended to stop certification of a presidential election.
Understood. And we've talked a lot about it.
That's why I said that.
We've talked a lot about it. The campaign,
clearly.
I'm
not trying to hype anything.
The campaign ran a lot of ads about it, talked a lot about it, and more, half the country now, Juan is going to say, that is not what I care about. I care about my economy. I care about immigration.
No, see, that's where we differ. I'm not sold on this idea that, it was the cost of eggs. I worry that it was, well, I'm not voting for this woman, or I'm not voting for this black woman.
No, that's not what we see in our data.
Well, here's the thing. Where do you see that? Because a moment ago, Darren was out here and he said, in fact, not only did the bro strategy work, and the bro strategy largely worked along the lines of white men, but that the bro strategy also had some impact in terms of Latino and black men who came along and gave higher percentages.
All right, Carl, weigh in.
I just want to make one more point with
ناتم ريتيوم بدلو نابزين مالس ريزالت.
51.2%
Pennsylvania تا وستانيت ستيت مالتي.
Trump so far. 90% of the ballots
زيادة
have been
Pennsylvania
counted. So we're talking about roughly a
3.5%
advantage for Trump in the Keystone State.
We've
now been getting results in from states like Nevada. It was taking a bit. We didn't get anything from them for quite some time, but now 3/4 of the vote is in. Trump has around a 3-point lead in Harris in Nevada. Arizona, we're not entirely sure if we'll get any more vote tallies in for the rest of the night. Arizona has been stuck at 51% ever since they released their initial badge. All of this is to say, Kuro, when we zoom out on this map, we see a whole lot of red, we see a whole lot of pink. What we don't have yet is an official race call from AP. We'll leave it at that for now.
All right, Austin, and I know you've been a trooper here, out for hours, so we're going to have to wait and see. Like you said, still kind of waiting for more of these results. We do have this tracker here on our screen. Right now, 247 and 210 for Harris. It's a countdown to 270. Austin Westfall. We'll check all right, let's continue on here. Of course, as I do want to bring you once again out to this live picture of a podium there in Palm Beach, Florida. As I said before, we're waiting to that's going around here. And we do know that a little earlier today, we were informed that Vice President Kamala Harris was not going to be speaking to all of her supporters that came out to see her at Howard University. That was her alma mater. There in Washington, D.C. Now, while we wait for this to get underway, let's continue to talk more about these campaign strategies and more specifically why some of these candidates choose to speak and why some of them don't. So to do that, I'd like to bring into the conversation now Casey Myers. He is a professor of public relations at Virginia Tech. Casey, good to see you. I know it's late over there on the East Coast, but first, initial reactions when you hear that Vice President Harris wouldn't be addressing all those people that came out to see her.
Well, it's no surprise given what we've seen in the polls and what we've seen in the results. And as the map shows, I mean, the path to victory for Trump is multifaceted. And you look at Harris, I mean, she would have to really pull an upset in so many different states that are leaning Republican and win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And if she loses one of those, I mean, her path to victory is very limited, right? So one of the things that I think that we're seeing is that she knows these numbers. She may have even more numbers than what we have access to that are demonstrating to her that maybe victory is not in sight. And so it is not atypical for someone to just not address the supporters that night, but then wait for the next day. And we saw that in 2016.
All right, so Casey, and also we have been previewing, of course, this shot that I continue to show here. Former President Donald Trump going to speak here. It seems a little bit like deja vu.
Not address the supporters that
back in 2016, we didn't hear from Hillary Clinton right after those election results were first coming in, but we did hear from the former president. So what can we expect from that appearance tonight?
Well, I think the big question about that appearance is going to be, what does he say to the supporters? I mean, obviously, it's going to be the things about, thanking them for their support. But is he going to declare victory? Is he going to say that victory's in sight, or we're still waiting to kind of see what the final vote tally is going to be? In all likelihood, the final every vote counted and accounted for is going to happen not tonight. It's going to happen days from now. And so are we waiting on that, or is he going to say, looks like that we're headed to a victory now? And it does appear that he is.
لو معلتي ترامب ماشي خزارب كله برقص تعاويتنا يقولون يقول ترامب وريد قدمي مجمار كمان كنعواتنا قدن كنعواتنا لنعواتلو مغنيات يلني زبل نيرو لو مشت قالوا خسمعي probably كسع فرقليت زخون يم تصبي دلو فرقليت مسكونه وجم كزاربيم دونالد ترامب فلاي كساب شو قاب كندي كالوت ستيتس على مريتشان جينا زفقد زلو تفقيدو عبد حدا اخول درجه مس بصحه announce كغبر دليوم يخون كساب نريو دلنا حجي ግን دبزحون ترامب يوم زمرت زلو اتقصر هندي بصح لوتم تريو زلهم 247 بغلتين 10
Casey Myers, Virginia Tech public relations professor. So Casey, continuing on with this point, because it really is a question of when, I feel at this moment the former president is going to come out here. What kind of what's the thinking behind this, especially when we see that so many of these people come out? I know that you discussed a little bit about wondering what they're going to say exactly, but how much does it really mean to a campaign, especially because we don't know exactly who is going to be the next president? I mean, is this more positive, more negative? What's that strategy?
Well, I would say that there's obviously the signal is positive because he's addressing his supporters tonight. There seems to be from that shot a lot of enthusiasm in the audience. And so I would see that as a net positive. And obviously Harris not addressing her supporters and them going home is a negative. But again, you know, one of the questions that we have right now is
ፍርቂ ሚሊዮን ሰባት ኣብ ላይቭ ይከታተልዎ ነዝመደ ፍርቂ ሚሊዮን
it is all likelihood Alaska would go Republican.
ፈቶካኒ ምክንያቱ ፖለቲካ ብጣዕሚ ሰንሲቲቭ ዝኾነ ሳብጀክት እዩ ኣነ ካብ ብዙሕ ኣይፈልጥን ሓቂ ተሓይሽ ነገራት ብቐሊሉ እንድሕር ክርዳእኒ ዘይክእል ኮይኑ ድሕር ንሰብ ከረድኦ ዘይክእል ኮይኑ ኣይተረዳእኒ ማለት እዩ ሓደ ነገር ኣነ ከረድእ ዘይክእል ኮይኑ ንሰብካ ኣነ ፈላጥ ኢለ ክዛረበሉ ኣይደፍርን ስለዚ ትጽናሓለይ ኣማሓዳር ስመራ ከውን ግን ፀገም የለ እዚ ፀገም የለን እዚኣ ፈልጣ ብኸመይ ቴክ ኬር ይገብረኩም እንታይ ትደልዩ ፀገም የለን ሁላይነ ዞም ናተይ ሰብስክራይበርስ ማለት እዩ ደገፍቲ ትራምፕ ሕጂ ትራምፕ ይመፅእ ሰ ዘሎ ብሃንቆታ እዮም ዝፅበዩ ደለው ኣብዚ ናይዛ ፔንስልቬንያ ዝተዓወተ ዛረባሎ እዚ
I think a net victory for Republicans.
Yeah.
Oof, that's a big statement there to say, but maybe not so bad, given the facts that
Republicans
everything has played out throughout the day today.
أتطالع بزعبة أنتي كنزارة بينا مسلكم Republican and Democrat أنتي تفللي وين من تاي ترايو أب أمريكا كلتي بارتي زلوا إني من تاي Democrat and Republican أتي هيستوري ناتب كنتاي زبل كندوسو ساينا عدالي على هذا فيديو بوست جنابل كمان مناعته مزحجز كادلو مرج أتسأل على خيكون مرج مس حلفة جن بتعود تنجمرينا تخاطر سلازي لازم channel زخت كاتولو ترى ترى هونكم subscribe مقبار أيترسعهم.
Not if he's going to speak, it's kind of expected that he will, but when is the question at this point? And plus, we're still tracking all of these results that continue to be called, not just within the presidential race, but all of these other state races as well. So we'll have more coming up.
Work anchors executives for an off-the-record meeting at Trump Tower, and it was off the record, so I won't go deeply into it. But to say we were under the
policies and bring it back to the center over the next 4 years. And in a
أربعة عامات سلام زلوا حيوات كان حلفين على كيري كومي دور ردلو.
He saved entrepreneurship. He saved the entire model of.
أرس حرستاي لقيت نجانا يكوني.
Taxing 20% higher was a really bad idea, and it self-corrected. Capital, and this is why I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. I intentionally didn't leave till tomorrow night.
Right, Trump ساعة مت زيان نكاتلا نسنح بحريو ناي ترامب قال محدد كن سامعينا نكاتل.
100% not going to change. That is very important for people like me that bring capital back to this country. It fixed itself. It fixed itself, and I think that's why America works. It has worked for 200 years. When it gets too crazy, it fixes itself. And whether you love Trump or you hate him, every Democrat owes him a thank you very much, Mr. President.
By the way, as the markets, the poly market and all these election markets were moving, Bitcoin went up exponentially.
Yes, I'm long Bitcoin.
Are you? So you're buying later.
You know, speaking of Bitcoin, I'm also struck by just calling Pennsylvania here, Dana. Trump embraced Elon Musk in an enormous way. A lot of stories were written that said that he was going to blow it in Pennsylvania, that the people who were working on his outreach teams didn't know what they were doing. He's going to.
And he got a lot of criticism. Remember the $1 million giveaway for registered voters. But
for that.
Selena Zito, who's somebody that we follow and we've had on the show many times, and she knows that area very well. She said the people of that region love somebody who is a big thinker, who wants to create jobs, who is like looking into the future, and they can get behind that. And they love somebody who can really.
How much money they spend for this election, Donald Trump?
And you have to be willing to make decisions where you are going to be criticized. I think this is one of the problems that Kamala Harris has always had. She doesn't want to take a position on anything. We haven't even talked about how in California, the law to basically make shoplifting illegal again passed overwhelmingly. And Gascon, our friend down
who is endorsing Donald Trump?
Los Angeles, lost by 22.
أنطرت عيني وربك زخون سب مسؤول ليس سامع تقولني يعاليوه الجزء فير أيكونه ماسي freedom of speech مالت ناس أنا تورد سب نخزارب مالت إسخات فوتو تراي كزارب مالت أيكونه إسخاليت فوتو كزارب كخلي الشيء قاعد تمثل سبحان إسخاليت فوتو كزارب كله أوكي أيتو حتى الكان جن هو جن نكزارب مسؤول شو زخونه تقبلك مثل كأي تزارب تولا أب سعد زين دونالد ترامب جن بانجرمه كالوت وين أزيوم فلوتات سبات زخونه تحتزاريهم يعطوهم نيرو شو أنت يجرو إيلون ماسك ن تويتر حجب ساعات زي إكس تبع لازلا جزيوا ن تويتر دي إكس جزء أقول لكن بأزيو لعل زخون واقع كم سحجنا أبنة حنت مكينة مش ب10 شهور لا تجزع نبل حدش مكينة الكاس ب10 شهور لا تجزع أنتنا بحكي واقع جن 10 شهور أنتوا قلنا جن لذا مكينة تجزع زلها مغنيات أب ساعات تويتر تجزع زلوا مغنيات freedom of speech وين ما مثل دك سبعة دلها من خزارو مثلا completely كي جاز منات أب يوتيوب حج أب زين نرجع زلنا channel كتزارو وتخلن زي تخلن النجارات هذا كله أب حسب زمتك تزارو مالته يكون قال نجارات أنت أسأل كتزارب كيا قاعد صخا خليه أب كلهم تا channel دعت صوا بزخون نحن تسأل على تزارب كم مالتي شو إيلون ماسك نزا تويتر كجزاء يوصلونه حس شو خبر واقع حاجة زيوا كاب قمة وصاي كاب قمة وصاي جزيوا دقة دونالد ترامب قالوا دونالد ترامب شو channel مليسلو ولا نكانيا ويست بحال درافع ون channel مليسلو بوز حساب كأ دقوفو RU مالتي دونالد ترامب مسمولوسو إيلون ماسك نتاجروا مسلكم مزوم advertisers حجز زخونا عند ميديا كم نأبنت يوتيوب حجي يوتيوب بخمي يخف لك مسلكم إذا سوكم تكاتل واجل لكم مدام advertise انت أبزع فيديو ماتيكم بتا advertise يوتيوب جنزب يركب أتي فيديو سر حساب كأ تقراتي يركب مالتي بازي كل خاطر ربح أب تويتر جن متان دونالد ترامب لازمولوسو بتاعم سو تقطعوتهم ناي ديمقراط مالتيو كالوت ليبرالز مالتيو اوكي نسقا دونالد ترامب مالسكا بل ادفرتايز نقبر نايلهم قطعومو مصعت حجنتاي كلاتهم ابتناتو كامباني ادفرتايز نقبرنا انت رايلهم اتي كامباني ناي ادفرتايزين ريفينيو ويدما بسنكي ادفرتايزين درخو زنبره جنزب يخسر عبي حسي اخان حنت كامباني advertise انت دا كتركب ديكي إلا وي جنزب كتركب تزيكي إلا بس مغنياتي خا إيلون ماسك نازم إسرائيل أنا سيلوم نجنزب إلى سرح يمسلكم ولا سي نجنزب إلى سرح يمسلكم ريل انت حاسبكم واسي إيلون ماسك سي تسلا لو تسلا كامباني ناتيو بوي CEO سبيس إكس بروجرام علو بزعبات أفر مخادن كال زسنة إكس ويرما تويتر كأد حرجة زيوا مالتي إذا كلها بتخلنس أنا سنجن زي بلاد السرح له ويش بخوفهم تحسبوا إذا أبنوا حزقات أمي كم حتصير على زي حكيكم زلهم بس مغنياتي خا إيلون ماسك حجي عبزا ذهبا انترفيو مس ولا مس جو روغان زبهلاله حدا هو بودكاستر فلوت بتعمي درجة مزن أسعد زي نريان ناي تلفزيونات CNN NBC Fox لعليان مكتاز لتروز لهم RF جونيور بحال زي سبزي أبزلو.
The polling community is going to have to figure out a way to do it, or it's just not going to get used anymore. You're not going to report it anymore because it has no relevance if it's not true. And if you look across the board tonight, not just in the presidential, but in other ways, there have been major changes that they just didn't pick up.
So, Richard, question about the blue wall. We've talked so much about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I've said multiple times tonight that ever since 1992, these three states have voted together. In 2016, they voted red. Every other time since 1992, they have voted blue. Why is it that these three states tend to vote together?
دبز حسيت أبز حستري فنزلوا كل ديمقراطيز مسائرنا بساعات سجن
they vote together.
now Republican gets in staying on
sort of somewhat arbitrarily, somewhat historically, but the people are the same. The issues are the same. The issues of someone in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are very, very similar. People voted tonight for their pocketbooks. People are really, really fed up with the high cost of things. And that's really what you're seeing out there. And the people in Wisconsin and the people in Pennsylvania are very similar in how they look at these
things. Go back
things.
to the video and comments. See, I'm talking to you instead of talking to my viewers.
If we didn't have these arbitrary state boundaries, there'd be one huge state and, we wouldn't be so surprised. Look, the cities are going to vote a certain way, and we're seeing that tonight. Now, the cities are way under where they were.
Now, at this hour, as Grady mentioned, Mike Rogers in Michigan is up. Looks like he is getting closer. We haven't made a call there yet. Hobby in Wisconsin, leading right now.
Wisconsin
is closing in on Jackie Rosen. Wow. We're talking about historic numbers here. If all of these dominoes fall, you're talking about a Senate that could be 54-46, 55-40.
زبز حسنت ناي ريبابليكان ترى أخوي زحيل بوليسي كم شو يقول يوم.
When you came into election night.
But these candidates have all fought really strong races, and they have.
Yeah, Aaron, what did I? The comment was the حقيقة.
Many of them were sort of pulling into +5, +6 in just over the last 3 weeks. So it's a fascinating part of the story. Hopefully we'll be able to call some more of those soon.
Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says with these coattails, you could see the House going Republican as well, and that would be a part of this story as well. Let's go back out to Trace Gallagher on the West Coast with his panel. Hey, Trace.
Brett, thank you. Martha, thank you as well. We've got our panel, Steve Hilton, Jody Armour, Kaylee McGee-White, and Jono Caldwell. You're talking to your panel, Brett and Martha, and we were talking to ours, and Kaylee McGee-White was struck by the whole concept that, again, Trump was undercounted.
لك كم تيكل تشعين عصب شلشان زنبرة مرجع ديتا تصبيو ترامب متي دسمبرم حجون بحيال دمسي ترامب كعوت.
You were blindsided. You didn't expect it. You cannot say that anymore. This was predictable from the very start. And I think the reason they keep getting it wrong is because they still don't understand the average Trump voter. They cannot wrap their heads around why so many people support him. And it's because for a long time, actually...
انت هتقول زلا نترامب مجمرت أسدحان اسكي عيوتني لكم تطلعت لكم تخونوا ويزخون حدش كله مجمرتا مرج مالتي أجي قريهم ترامب هم يسكولو معرخ إني سب يأكب أب حدا كامبين رالي كوت سكولو كندي سب تأكيو أو ماي جاد ترامب أرحنا ترامب نعم تانا يمتولو حتى أنا يتحكيكم كاب كندا أمريكا هتكيد قليل بتعمي قليل فلاي إن كنداوي باسبور تحس كاب بتعمي إيزي كاب كندا أمريكا خيدو ترامب مريتو ماتيو أب يجويفز بحالو أب إدمنتون أب كندا مالتيو إنستغرام ستايل إنستغرام تايدو بحال يوزريو بوستيلو حدا كنداوي أمريكا خيدو فوت جيريو لك عتا فوت جبرلا سيلفي ناتا سأله كم زجيرو سيلفي ناتا سأله نترامب فوت جيريو ماتيو أنا غندي نتأند كم دلوا مالتي يقدر ما كومين إذا قبي اعتراض لكم حيال ترجم على ماجا مالتي ماجا كأنت مالتي make America great again أمريكا مليسنا زحيرة زبرت عندنا حاجات نجبرنا بلستي حاجات نجبرنا زبل تيما حزي زقاز president Trump لنا كوينو لاي president تسوى ها أبزر لهم مسكي حد صحافو ترامب تدليو حد صحافو ترامب يمتزعلو كأنك قال مسمعو دايمو داي حد صغت
I got 15 seconds for you, Steve. I just think when I see this unfold, Trace, it is just a massive victory.
We got to jump back. Sorry, guys, back to you. We got Trump coming out.
وترامب يمتزعلو يأتوالو
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
My God.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin.
Oh my God.
He narrowly lost 4 years ago. He is now the second president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first
Senator
J.D. Vance will become the 50th vice president of the United States. Voters expressed deep frustration with the Biden administration and former President Trump and the future President Trump overperformed in urban areas, particularly with men, proving that the strategy that they've doubled and tripled down on over the course of the last few months absolutely succeeded and brought him back to the White House.
47th president of the United States, former President Trump now defeats Vice President Kamala Harris, who entered this race just over 100 days ago.
Wow.
For Democrats, they were projecting the possibility of running the table with battleground states. David Plouffe, suggested that just yesterday. Now it is possible that Donald Trump runs the table with these states and builds on a big landslide electoral election is going to finish out. But we do know that he will be going back to the White House, and with him, Brit Hume, will be a lot of changes because he will have been there once. And
Thank you, Barnabas. Thank you, Barnabas.
Accounts for the fact.
زبل رديتون على جن. كعوتي هجي تودي مالتيو. شالوم سفينو كبرات حواتي. Sorry, Fikar. Thank you for the comments. Thank you so much. I think he met Donald Trump. I've called it check Gabra. Probably he met Yeah.
The first was Grover Cleveland. So bringing back now Richard Gordon, political analyst, and also my colleague here, Austin Westfall. Austin, I know you had a point you wanted to make.
That's it.
Well, and also just bouncing off of what Chad was saying, Cleveland was the 22nd and the 24th president of the United States. It's been quite some time since we've seen a dynamic like this happen. Let's go to the map because we did just get a race call and we did see the numbers get updated just slightly. Trump has 248 now. That means that he's 22 electoral votes away from the White House, at least from the Associated Press's figures. Where are those votes going to come from eventually? Well, if he gets Pennsylvania and if he gets Alaska, that's a done deal right there. Pennsylvania, let's check in. Let's just see where they're at. 94 now, 94% of the votes counted. Trump has a healthy lead, 3 percentage points with 94% of the vote tallied.
Yeah, Barnabas, how it's
26. This has been crawling very slowly. 26% of the vote has been tallied in Alaska, but as you can
والله انت زي تردأنا مالت دايركت انت زي تسألونا ازي تكاير زلو وجيجن كل نبرات كم زخبر يخوينو ولا انت بوزح سبع يتعامونا بعالم كل نجار كبيرو نجارات كبيرو inflation يلوم قال زغونا مخنيات يمكن سلام تولجن كالي ترف اتسب كسر حقل انكاس اسقل اتجنزب كاخي تدلي نوجيل كسايفن دخون يقارت
How do they move forward after
they may line up as part of the family, but they have not been a presence in the way that they were.
Well, let's also not forget that 40-year-old J.D. Vance, who served in the United States Senate for 2 years, is on the precipice of becoming the vice president of the United States for a man who's 78 years old. So, I mean, this is a moment.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say about who would serve in the administration, I think this is actually
Donald Trump.
A better opportunity for him coming back after the 4 years in between. Because normally when you have the second term, you just shuffle the chairs on the deck. You've got the number 2 person was really good. Number 1 and move over to another. And now he's
I think he will put, for example, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Do you think he says, you know what, I'll give you the FDA or the health department? Yes, exactly.
Those are Senate confirmed. And so unless you went with an acting role,
which he himself has said he doesn't mind having acting heads.
I mean, I'll leave that to him, but what I'm also going to say...
And President Trump was gracious to them too. They came to the luncheon at the Capitol after the inauguration. The Obamas and the Clintons were there. I was there to see it myself.
Some of these issues. And the Democratic Party has, because of the way they view inclusiveness, for example, has picked issues that affect
most of the people we did not know because he wasn't the politician. He Rice was doing all of this, who was the person of Washington, D.C. You're taking
about his
from
former
Congress.
chief of staff, Reince Priebus, yeah.
And so now he's got that knowledge.
Well, and it's striking because so many of the people who served in his administration have said he's unfit to serve. And so they won't be returning, obviously. And we spent a fair amount of time talking about that in recent weeks. All of the people who called him, for example, a fascist. I do think it's worth zooming out a little bit and just acknowledging the history-making moment that we are witnessing. The fact that he's only the second president in more than 100 years, if he does in fact.
أدش عندي سميت أو عن تقول لها كم يمسخ هذا عندكم كلاتكم أبزل لكم شالوم ديو كم يمسخهم ترامب تعويتو وعقوسنا أبز كم دري زلنا أبز بز حد ستي تعويتو له just watch يوم ترايم أو دونالد ترامب وسيدو وازاي بولو أمبارسات اعترافاتهم زلا كم دري زلنا دونالد ترامب وزاي unless كحدا فولو ينجر أقاتيمو كم دري زلنا دونالد ترامب وزاي إذرين كاسين كحدا
on policy, he'll engage. If there's an area where he's in disagreement, he will decide whether he will make that known or just quietly wait and know that you've got actually another opportunity 4 years down the road, not to run, I'm not saying that, but to influence another set of policymakers.
But there is a reason.
استفلا بوليسي كغير دونالد ترامب انتنا بحلقة وتيو بتعمي صلوا خجبر.
One is going to comment, well, if they went to the left, this
next cabinet.
Well, I think a lot of times you have to realize
the final and Musk and the rest of
how to communicate with him,
where
and also
they were excellent.
They talked about making America great again, but then ending with the assassination attempt and that fist in the air, the iconic image, and the fight.
أبني American history ni president assassinate نقارسي ريهم نركمهم كان محجي جون اف كينيدي assassinate كم بخونه ريهم نركمهم دونالد ترامب جن بقطري قلت له وقت نقولهم بتعم يسميلو حزب عالم مهنياتو اي تتصبيون كلتا غزي فتنا قتلتي تفتينو مالتي እግዚአብሔር ከአወጪ ተሓንቲ ሲልክ ነዛ አዝኑ ተንኪፋት ያታት ይትሐሊፋ ሳን ናይ ሚሊሜትር ማለት እዩ ስለዚህም እግዚአብሔር የለንቱ እግዚአብሔር አሎ እግዚአብሔር ይኻኸም ዝካብ ዝድሕነካ ድኽእል እምበር ኢትሲ ከኒ ንሓንቲ ሴንቲሜትር ክትስሕተካ ኣነ እግዚአብሔር ጥራይ አይደለም
A big night, Brett and Martha, a long campaign for the former president, for all of us, the press.
أرون ودي داويد كم يمسها كان عرفنا له مشهد تعويتم سمعنا ناقر نعرف كم يلا هندكس صادقس أرون حوي نالبات أنا دونجيك خون خلي عب لايف صادقس أنا خص أن حفزي كندا خاجن أنا كتس اللي الكاء بروح حوي دكس نصف حاجن
I think they were just couldn't believe it that this happened tonight and they didn't have to wait days and days and days.
بتعمي متحمسهم زلوا دونالد ترامب معواتهم هنياتو معلتها بتصبي مسلوهم اتي ريزالت كسعد وصل أمي ترامب ممتوز هنا مثلاً قطع اليوم مهناتو هندبت كيما تصمو مدلات كي قبرو تصنحو كدالو تصنحو كم زل ناقن دونالد ترامب كوز دايو بتعمي إجزابي هرز حلوة كامبر زي سقلك زخون نجار يكونه
came back to Washington in the spring and went to the RNC and claimed the nomination. This is the greatest comeback that I've ever witnessed personally myself.
إذا كلام حتى تقبل زلا ويتزارب زلا أنت كاتب زلا أنا بتعمي يتحمسر له كم زعينة زعما كاملا هارس يوم تزارب له كاملا هارسي نناتا ساعتي مجان حدث زاربسي كم إلى نعنا أبز مجا قد تزارب وي بتكس صحيفة تكتبل نابا ديتو حتى لهم كون خلي معوات ناي دونالد ترامب أرجع كازمة تركايو أتاسكم سي جاكانو اتني حنق اتني حمق أتا يوناس ودقشي تبارخ راح شمكات الرخب زام السلا جاسي قلت لهم ما كان قاتن تسأني انتهى مسلا أو أفكار تسأني حاجة كابل بس أف عنك أف سنكل كني لنا قلت أكون يرى
and just puts it on the shelf like it's a trophy or a gold star. He's going to use that as a platform for good and undo some of these bad policies.
يغني لي زوم مسجد هابكمني مسكانا يبصحكم.
Creators and innovators. He's got Elon Musk and Dana. He's got people who make stuff. Who people say, wow, there's an American success story, and he's going to bring them aboard.
So Vice President Harris has now encountered what is known as the Van Buren curse. It's the failure of the Vice President to get to the presidency. Only two have done it, and that is Mark Van Buren in 1836 and George H.W. Bush in 1988. The question is what the Republican Party looks like now. And Kayleigh, it's a multiracial party, to your point. It's working class, and maybe
Abraham habte gergesh awa gergesh hasibka zgeberkayon adqiqa zmeterkayon etni hanq etni hamq anta بسلام سكدقسكم حضر لهم ليت زياسي اجنا اتنا صنيحه thank you
Who is the next standard bearer for president? Is it JD Vance?
Dream big again. حجي دونالد ترامب already ناتو vice many كون vice president ترالكم JD Vance تبهالي JD Vance كحرقابتهم زناسو اب سنترات ينيرو كمرص كله مالتي ود 24 عمت كله يو ناي مجمرتا سنتر كوينو زناس سنتر مالتي كلاي زناس سنتر جيري فانسون حدا خاطم سمارت ازيوم بلحتي يكونوا سنتراتيو اجاب ساعات زي نا فايس بريزيدنت كون يو مريس وزولو دونالد ترامب مالتي قدمي 4 عامات دونالد ترامب مجمرتا بريزيدنت كون كله ن مايك بنس يمريس ونيرو اب ساعات سجن ن جيدي فانس يمريس وزولو جيدي فانس حدا بلح منسيو انا انترفيو قبل سمعي له بتعمي حيال هون بلح سبيو حق حنزارب جنكن رينا انتهى لو تيمكم تو كل زي بوليتيكانيا مجمرتا نخعوات مروصني زغبري قدم شبلو مستمر سجن يردان كل ولا تزغبروس جن سلام تسفينو ملنا ادخل عين برنا يطفانا مثلكم شالون طين عندنا احنا
is something that Kamala Harris fell really far short on in terms of the authenticity measure.
Yeah, if you had told me that a billionaire from New York would be able to connect with middle America, I would have questioned that. To my friend, the gentleman from Tennessee, autopsies are painful, especially when the
سارة هاي اللي تبلي زلقي حقيقي بتعمي سمارت أنا ون بزعبا جيدي فانس ريسيرش جرانيرا and بزقال يلوس دي سمعوا ناتي انترفيو زقورة إلى سمعيو as you بلي حزقوني مستوى عالي قلت في خاخ زارب كله as you سلوط لخونا ملسي دهب سو حقيقي
If Joe Biden hadn't clung to the job, clung to the nomination, and hidden his condition with a lot of help.
أبزي Donald Trump كزارة مهاني بقصر له.
Well, and I remember talking to John Podesta in 2016 and saying, have you written a concession speech at the beginning of the night? And he said no, because we don't even want to think about that. And you have to.
نظام حجنا أبزي لايف تاتو زلهم ونقع عبد عن متاهم أب ساعات زي كم دريزلنا دونالد ترامب يزعوت زلو الشيء قعوت أنا كم دريزله كله درجة 9% دونالد ترامب كم زعوت يزرو زلهم أنت هو نجن حساب وات يوم دونالد ترامب you are the winner زبلوغن كنت أنا هنا That's why كل سب بتصبر له Donald Trump زربا سمع.
There's a distinction here, and I defer, of course, to the former Hillary Clinton campaign correspondent. But there was, in some ways, an air of inevitability around Hillary Clinton that just didn't exist around Kamala Harris. She wasn't even supposed to be on the top of this ticket 6 months ago, right? So it was a very different vibe coming into this. She talked about, and her campaign cast her as the underdog here in this race, not as the sort of heir apparent, if you will. So there are some distinctions here.
By the way, this is the third straight election in which it appears that pollsters have underestimated the Trump vote. I mean, we will see. We don't have all the numbers here, and we can all do the comparison, but it does appear that he, at least, maybe it's not a polling miss because those were, in most of these battlegrounds, dead ties and within the margin of error. And if it's in the margin of error, it's not a polling miss. But there's no question, Tom, that in the counties that you have now memorized, the last of your days, that he was outperforming and getting new voters to the polls and squeezing out more voters, especially in those rural districts.
We were looking in all those battleground states, and the pattern that we kept seeing was that he kept overperforming in the rural areas. She was underperforming Biden in those urban areas, in the blue counties she needed to win. I was signaling you, Savannah, because one thing I don't know if you guys have talked about it yet, but if former President Trump goes back to the White House, something else you guys, I don't think you've talked about it yet, is the Supreme Court. And what happens in the Supreme Court, and if anything happens there, we saw how he completely reshaped that court. And if he's reelected, and it looks like he's going to be, I mean, not that there's anyone sort of hanging on there at the Supreme Court, but it's something that Republicans are going to be thinking about.
Well, and here's the other point to remind people of. The Supreme Court issued a ruling that gave him immunity from all official acts. Prior to tonight, Donald Trump was facing 3 legal battles and was also convicted.
He's got a November 26th sentencing date.
So there will be a lot of questions about how all of that will
There are 2 state cases with sentencing case. The sentencing is in the New York State case. And then there are 2 federal cases which will functionally disappear.
Go away.
I mean, they'll go away. If he took office and they were still going, he could pardon himself. He could have a different attorney general. I mean, there's a million. They're gone. They're just gone.
Yeah, and remember, he also said he would free all of the January 6th convicts. We'll have to see how that works functionally. And he'll fire Jack Smith on day 1, and again, the deportation force, which he has promised to start on day 1. So we'll have to see how that all unfolds.
It's interesting. Very clear. Think about what Judge Merchan in New York State Court will do with the sentencing date before him, whether he just tables it or, you know, but in any event.
that could mean another Supreme Court intervention to try to find out
it could. It'll be very interesting. Yeah, it's an experienced judge. I don't know what he'll do. He may just, you know, recognize what's going on. And in the end, it is a business records case. You know, so he may decide, okay, the conviction stands, but choose not to sentence to jail, which actually would be in line with similar situated defendants.
Yeah, so you have
so it wouldn't be surprising.
Your court TV hat back on here.
I know. It's like all that legal education put to use here at 2 o'clock in the morning as we await Donald Trump to take the stage here in West Palm.
Yeah, we're in a bit of a holding period right now. The crowd is I guess, watching some speeches or videos right now, and they're waiting for the former president to come out. We don't know whether he will claim victory. Again, we have not made that call. At least one other network has, and the crowd reacted to that a bit early, but we make no statement from that other than the fact that we're our decision desk works along with its own metrics in making these decisions, so they will at some point make calls.
Donald Trump
states such as Alaska, I think that by calling Pennsylvania,
Vivek Ramaswamy ይባሃል already ንሱን ፕሬዚደንት ክምረጽ ካንዲዴት ይነሩ እንተኾነ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ክድግፍ መሪጹ ዶናልድ ትራምፕ ካንታይሉ ቪቬክ ራማስዋሚ ኣነውን ሓላፍነት ኩበኤ ሓደ ካብቶም ብሩህ መጻኢ ዘለዎ መንእሰያት ክብል ይስታይልዎ
likely to go here, and he does hit 270 electoral votes. He would be the oldest president ever elected. He would actually beat now President Biden by about 143 days. So he would make history in that setting as well. That is not something he prefers to talk about, especially as age has become front and center in this race, as Vice President Harris looked to cast him as sort of exhausted, questioning his fitness for office in those final days of the campaign. Again, an argument that clearly did not.
That we are continuing to monitor for you, so we will bring it to you as soon as that does get underway. But in the meantime, let's continue on with some more of this political analysis at what has turned out to be quite a historic and a surprising election cycle.
Live results update
I'd like to bring to the program now Frank Luntz. He is a pollster and communications strategist. So Frank, good to see you, and thanks for joining us here very early in the morning, already on the day after Election Day, at least on the East Coast. But give me your initial thoughts here. So much has happened throughout the last several hours, and being a pollster, polls that we have been receiving
Kampala, Canada, America, Addis Ababa,
Look at that Iowa poll.
Germany, أبي بوتا يوم لهم كومنت صحفوا لي كابي بوتا ياخو كومنت صحفوا كلاتكم أبي كابي عديهم تكاتل زلهم نزي مرجع بريزيدنت أمريكا خلت شحن عسران 4 مالتيو.
How much time on cable news programs?
President Donald Trump's tweets have been, and people have problems with it. One thing I've challenged Democrats to find is one example of him disparaging the country, half of the country, and that's something he has not done. And so I expect you'll hear a unifying tone, and I expect you're going to see a very successful presidency.
Calgary, Israel, Canada, Kampala, Uganda, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Germany, Nairobi, Edmonton, Ottawa, Managu, Toronto, Canada, Barnabas Nagash Canada.
How do it sooner than he did. I think that Donald Trump, who goes with his instincts, is going to be a Trump that ultimately leads a very successful
Vice President Zahoni Maris Masilun Iran Katalo Majamarta.
Joe Biden mentioned the word unity during his inaugural address than any president, I think, except one. If he's serious about
Germany,
Donald Trump, he'll also
Belgium.
And then put pressure on Georgia and New York to end this lawfare. If there is any silver lining tonight, it is that lawfare actually helps the person that you are trying to go after. We need a justice system. The lady needs to wear a blindfold for a reason. We got to stop this prosecution of our political enemies.
I mean, literally.
Edmonton, okay, Edmonton.
Absolutely.
We need a really solid attorney general.
John Ratcliffe.
Can do it.
Sorry, John. I apologize. Sorry.
There will be a lot of talk about cabinet members, Treasury Secretary, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. You've got
anti-Trump establishment. Maybe he thought that was the future of the Republican Party. Went away for a little while, came back when he saw that a seat was open in Michigan, and basically did everything he could to make himself in the MAGA mold. And now he's going to be a part of this new group, part of this new group of senators. We haven't called that.
Yeah, I'm just peeking. He's leading by a little bit. We have it as too close to call.
Well, I mean, you look at Senator Marco Rubio, who I just saw there. I mean, all of
Sweden.
his former opponents.
Oh, nice.
Get run over.
That's
kind of the way that it's been, and many of them have.
Sub Kampala. What's Zotia? New local Malna Sub Kampala. What's Zotia?
I mean, and I've had many conversations with.
كم يحركم سب كامبالا بزح لهم سب كامبالا بزر لهم كم يحركم
and they talked about how maybe they don't like necessarily Donald Trump's personality or the way he presents himself or the way he
Nardos.
But they also realize that, and what is clearly evident tonight, that he has captured the pulse of at least half of the American people, and in particular, the American people that elect Republicans to office. And so you can try and fight against that establishment if you want to be a Republican, or you can get on board, and more you see these Republicans getting on board. The question, I think, becomes, does that translate into some sort of governable posture? They're very good at throwing pot shots. They're very good at complaining about things, turning that into actual action, because Donald Trump has laid out a long list of things he'd like to get done. Like, how quickly can he remove tax on tips or tax on overtime?
which is something that.
Oli bulunje, ndi bulunje mukanda wanje, ndi bulunje.
But then you got to find the money elsewhere when you want money for other things. So budgets are budgets.
قربكم سب كندا نحنا ون بانا فكليتن دي زلو فكليتن فرقنا له انت هون زدقس قد يكونن قال ترامب كيسو مع كله من مشت اي وداني za لايف زي نايقدن ترامب انت يخبل تدرس حوي ترامب مريح له ترامب يقعوت كم درلنا جن وات يوم اوكي ترامب وسيلوا كيبولو تزارب يتقنا اناونسمنت كل جزء كابتوم الكترال فوت مريحم دلو way lead goes on.
And you are not going to support her, then you know, hate all women. They said that husbands, you know, were hateful towards their wives and the women in their lives if they didn't support this candidate. And I think it just goes to show that that kind of, you know, manipulating, it doesn't.
By the time every vote is counted, it is likely that Trump will have narrowly won that popular vote. Most surveys had it dead even, or within 1%.
Oh, تناتي تعرف أنصار له. Okay, maybe Philips لازم يقول كوي يخون.
And they haven't gotten that right.
يا قريتها. يا قريتها. الفيديو كان يرأله نتصور له.
Too small. But you're right to ask the question. I don't have an answer for you because we weren't involved in that.
And I'm sure that a lot of people, even if they were involved in it, are almost asking themselves that very same question, kind of looking back throughout this entire trajectory, thinking, you know, where did we get it wrong when it comes to these samples that they try to take from the American public to try to get these reports out there, try to project these winners.
أزي policy ناي كامالا هاريسون دونالد ترامب أب ريفيج زلوا مرة Now, بنتصر واتياب إزينا هنقبر كابزبول وأخ نقرأكم عنه. كامالا هاريس زخونة سدتنيا بزحات على منجدي ورقد وهابول منجدي كان متسينا عتبل. دونالد ترامب بقى زي حجوان سدتنياتات زي حجوان يمكن ملصو منا. حجوان تغنى متساقم يلان يوزبل. سلازي مستمر تيخاق نتري أخل جزء. قلت كنيا دزارون حلافنا مسموتو زقورون. You know?
Moments that led us to this at this point, kind of the message that Trump had.
That
brought us here today.
Well, don't forget that it's two candidates. It's not just Trump, but it's also Vice President Harris. And she never described what she was going to do.
هو أتي فيديو نتصور على أتي صحف جنيا تجمع الحق هم
She never gave voters the things
that they used to get كاب كمبيوتر
and particularly about security. These were the two issues that
كاب كمبيوتر 100%.
And that advantage.
Ab next time كعري كبراتي حواد.
I've been criticized by the Harris campaign for being so critical of them.
Ab next كعري سبوجرة.
Attempt to add to the negativity, to add to the assessments of Trump in a negative way, and it did not work.
بالهم كنا علهم.
In the end, voters need to know why to vote for you.
هو كم حكي ترامب نسدتنيا نأمريكا زي حجوان ماتيو بمكسيكو نتيروم زاتو أي قبولون يوم ما تكتروا يتناي سدتنيا حكي سجم كأنتاي ببزحي مكسيكوان إن أمريكا يعطوا مو بهزي حجوا من قد مالتي يا قالوا سترة يكونن ادخال بوليستات كلا بزحنا قاريزولو ما سن نسخان عالم سلام اللي بحق لك number one
announcement of her getting in and replacing Joe Biden and the moment she turned her sights on the Trump
the moment that she started to طبعا لهم أبزي كومنت تحفوا لهم كلهم زي حجوان سلبيات أي دلينيوم ولا كامالا هاريسون زي حجوان أي تدلينيا ما كم نتبي أب كاتع أقوله قوم يبلون يروم أنت عم تقول بدون حبيرنا نهريه ما سي أنت لا قد محجي قال فالو أب يركم ناي كلتيوم political analysis زقبرون تحر مجرشة مستمر زقبرون تبيني
and it certainly does nothing to provide a sense of safety and security in the country that people have the right to expect. So great for people
أبزي كات علو بتصبو.
Some of those 2016 people who came in early are
Like to go بزول لكم بتعمي إذا مسونكم.
Steve Bannon, still an outside advisor. I'm told not planning to go back to the White House, but I think these are people who will continue to be in his
They'll be in his ear. But I wonder, to your point, though, Lester, when we look at this campaign, one of the things that was much different than what we saw in 2020.
Oh, حجي أنت يديو قال سبات ناي كاملا هاريس تي نمنت سأل ناي كله أيفون تي ويت أبورشن بهال ولا نسيتس مسألة يناتا عم نفسها زكاتن بعلى خطوس المسألة يعتبر بتعامي أكاتا عي سنستيف سابجكتي حاجة أو مسينا هنزارة كم تبعتي مخاني حجي أبزار استزي أنا سعيد عيك الزارة بني قلت نساقم تبلو قال نسيتي مسألة يد الله يعب نفسها تكبر يعتبر هو دونالد ترامب قال ماتي
Live now from Fox as we continue to track all of this, such stunning results really on this election day. But Frank, we're going to let you go now. We're going to head over to Florida and get to Trump. So thank you once again. A live now look here, as you can see that
Donald Trump
is stepping up to the stage there with his wife, Melania Trump, his son, Barron, and of course, all of his other children and his supporters that have been with him every step of the way. I'd like to pump up the audio and let's take a listen.
نهلت دونالد ترامب ماتي موسيقى حسا قد في أفسع زارب مجمرة موسيقى أونكو بوبري داسيت ماتي حلاف ماتيو بريزيدنت ماتي عطا شير بولو غلها شير بولو شير داسيت دونالد ترامب ماتي هلا دينا وايت رايو ناي UFC مرحي مالتي وانا ميلانيا ترامب يا زي أسبيتها زيوم دوكو يم دونالد ترامب واو وعقبسكم كلاتكم واو نهلا جيدي فانس عدالي متي سبيتش حيال دخون سبيتش عدالي متي دونالد ترامب
Thank you very much. Wow.
متي سين لا اسمع USA بلو
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help. Very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. We made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Right. تعودناكم. بس هنا
But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
And
every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
እታን ደቅኹም እንደቅደቅኹም እንትኸውን ኣዝበልኒ ኣሜሪካ ከምፃናይ ኣይንድቅስና ኣይንዕርፍና ሳዕ ትንፋስ ዘለኒ ነዚ ሃገር እዚኣ ክፅዕላ ክስርሓላኒ
Make America great again.
ኣሜሪካ እንደገና ኣብ እታ ዝለዓለት ሃገር ክንገብራ ኢና ግሬት ክንገብራ ኢና እዩ ዝገሎ
Having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places. Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
زين استعوتلن زلعله استعوتلن بوتاتن
Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes, but that
wow.
But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great.
ዝበዝሐ ቮቲና ተዓዊትና ብጣዕሚ ዝሕጉስ እዩ ናይሎ መዓልቲ ነዞም ብዙሕ እንግሊዝ የተሰምዑ ክብል እምበር መብዛሕትኦም ብዙሕ እንግሊዝ ከም ዝርዳእኩም ይፈልጥ ግን ነዞም ቁሩብ ምናልባት ሕፅረት ዘለዎም እንግሊዝ ንኽርድኦም ገለገለ ክንትንትና
Winning the popular vote was very nice, I will tell you.
ደስ ይሉኒ ብጣዕሚ የተሓጉሰ
We have a great feeling of love in this very large room with unbelievable people standing by my side. These people have been incredible. They've made the journey with me, and we're going to make you very happy. We're going to make you very proud of your vote. I hope that you're going to be looking back someday and say that was one of the truly important moments of my life when I voted for this group of people beyond the president, this group of great people. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good.
After the Senate seat, the majority seat came out in the local 54 seat malati.
In Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
زين كلن تنستعول لتلن ستيتاتين.
The MAGA movement, they helped so much. And in those cases, every one of them, we worked with the senators. They were tough races.
Yeah, Donald Trump
the number of victories in the Senate was absolutely incredible. And we did tele-rallies with each one of them. And sometimes we did 2 or 3 and it was amazing to look at all of those victories. Nobody expected that, nobody. So I just wanted to thank you very much for that. And you have some great senators and some great new senators. And it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives ወኪሎም ዝመፁ ናይ ስቴት ዝለዓለ ቁፅሪ ሒዛ ዘላ ሪፐብሊካና
Mike Johnson, I think he's doing a terrific job. I want to also thank my beautiful wife Melania, First Lady, and that very important guy, one of the most important people in, I would say, the country actually. But you know, I was president, and now it looks like I was going to be maybe president again, so I figured I could ask him to hold. So I asked him to hold, and especially because you're going to be president. I took the phone down, and I'm looking at the screen. I'm seeing this crazy thing that's going around and coming down. It looks like and I said, oh, no. And I said, do me a favor. Do you mind holding for a couple of minutes? I want to see this. I thought it was a space-age movie or something. I put the phone down. Bad part, I didn't pick it up for 45 minutes, and he was holding. But this spaceship came down, and I saw those engines firing, and it looked like it was over. It was going to smash, and then I saw the fire pour out from the left side, and I put it straight, and it came down so gently, and then it wrapped those arms around it. and it held it, and just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see, and I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No. Nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's great. And you know, when we had the
Elon Musk, that's not so Sarha Nataroketi the Meskuno Dolo way appreciate
Carolina, they were really devastated. The water. This was a big water.
I've
never seen water hurricane. It built lakes out of nothing. Fields became lakes. And the danger was unbelievable. And the people from North Carolina came to me and they said, would it be possible, we need Starlink. I said, what's Starlink? It's a form of communication. So I called Elon, and I'll tell you what, he had, and it was very dangerous. People would die. They had no communication. All the wires were down. I called Elon Musk. I said, Elon, you have something called Starlink. Is that right? Yes, I do. What the hell is it? He said, it's a communication system that's very good. I said, Elon, they need it really, really badly in North Carolina. Can you get it? He had that there so fast. It was incredible. So, and it was great. It saved a lot of lives. He saved a lot of lives. But he's a character. He's a special guy. He's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. We have to protect our super geniuses. I want to thank some of the guys. You know, we have up here today the U.S. Open champion. He's a fantastic golfer. He's slightly longer than me. Hits the ball a little bit longer than me. Just a little bit.
This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, busting with the boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
እዚያም ቶም ጽዋዕም ደሎ ኢንተርቪው ዝገበሉን ዶናልድ ትራምፕ መዚኦም ስዋት ኢንተርቪው ምስ ገበረ ዓቢ ኤክስፖዥን ወይ ብዙሕ ሰብ ክሪኦ ኢሉ ብጣዕሚ ኻ ደገፍ ረኺቡ ከመስግኖም ይጸኒሑ
Now he's really an amazing guy. But most of all, I want to thank the millions of hardworking Americans across the nation who have always been the heart and soul of this really great movement. We've been through so much together, and today you showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory like really, probably like no other. This was something special, and we're gonna pay you back. We're gonna do the best job. We're gonna turn it around. It's got to be turned around. It's got to be turned around fast. We're gonna turn it around. We're gonna do it in every way, with so many ways, but we're gonna do it in every way. This will forever be remembered as the day the American people regained control of their country. So I just want to say that on behalf of this great group of people, these are hard-working people. These are fantastic people, and we can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came in. And he's going to help make America healthy again. And now he's a great guy, and he really means it. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. We're going to be paying down debt. We're going to be reducing taxes. We can do things that nobody else can do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have. But we have the greatest people also. Maybe that's the most important thing. This campaign has been so historic in so many ways. We've built the biggest, the broadest, the most unified coalition They've never seen anything like it in all of American history. They've never seen it. Young and old, men and women, rural and urban. And we had them all helping us tonight. When you think, I mean, I was looking at it, I was watching it. They had some great analysis of the people that voted for us. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American.
كلهم ترامب كمورت زدقوا نعامي مزجانو زغرب زلوا كابستفالي قرنعات كابستفالي بهير إمنت كمون عليت مجمع نعوهم دمرات ويز قال زلوا مزجانو يقرب له.
Common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? I think we've done 900 rallies approximately from them. Can you imagine?
Wow. That's
901 something, a lot of rallies. And it was sad. Everybody was sad. Many people, I said, this is our last rally. But now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. Easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises.
Yeah. Thank you. بتعمل مسكنكم. Enjoy جريوس. سالكم يخازي. Yeah. كالي كبزناتي فيديو خطريتو ليكم أبزا بيني ميديا آتيكم كال ناتي فيديو تافكتريو تقوليكم كن thank you بقى شالونكم بزح زود حنكم سسنايو أبقى